I hope everybody is doing well. This is Adina here from Immigrant Finance, and I'm here with our guest Siam Hossain of Algorizin. Welcome, Siam. How are you doing?
Good, good. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come give this live talk and recording for the Immigrant Finance podcast. So, little background to introduce you to our audience. So, I connected with Siam because we are both doing work online, trying to help immigrants and help people find more opportunities. So, he started a company, Algorizin, which I'll let you introduce, but does really amazing work helping people be able to find jobs in the tech space. And so, that's a very exciting topic for our audience to learn more about. And yeah, we've started connecting and supporting each other. It's been really fun. I did a training for his community on investing. And yeah, so thank you for all the collaboration already. And we can just get started with you introducing yourself a little bit more in detail and perhaps your immigrant story.
Sounds good. Thank you, Adina, for inviting. This is always amazing that like whenever I see there are people who are working this space, I feel excited because there needs to be a lot of work done here. This
Yeah.
is a very underserved community, and I really like your mission. And thank you again for inviting me here. Um, just a quick, long story short. So I came here to do my master's, and I finished my master's in electrical engineering from University of Houston. It's an average school, not too bad, not too great. But after graduating from the school, despite having a master's degree in a STEM field, which is a very high demand field in general, I had a very hard time landing my first job. The When I started going to these career events, everyone was saying that, oh, what is your visa status? The moment I said that it's F1, like, oh, sorry, we do not do F1.
Yeah.
There is a It's not as complex, the sponsorship and the whole situation, but I feel like the the industry in US is very they actually don't know. I think there is some kind of fear here whenever they hear the sponsorship, like, oh, okay, we'll stay away from this thing. And this is something which I personally felt. So I worked in, I don't know if it is even legal to say, but I think it's fine. So I worked in like gyro stands and other kind of like cash jobs in New York and other places just to sustain myself, because it was obviously, if I don't have a job after graduation, that don't cut for long. So it
Yeah.
took me almost 10 months to eventually land a proper, like a proper job which fits my degree. uh,
It's a long
but
time.
it is a very long time. And the struggles were that I didn't know much people who could guide me, that, oh, Siam, do this and do that. Even if someone gave me, I think, like 2 hours of guidance, it could have saved me at least 1 year, I feel like, at that stage. But this is how you learn. And then I realized that as I was like growing professionally in my career, so I started working as a mobile app developer, and then for 7 years I stayed as a mobile app developer. I was a AVP of a mobile apps division of T. Rowe Price. It's a financial investment company based in Baltimore.
Mm.
But in that last 7 years, I saw so many people coming up to me and saying, I saw the same struggle over and over from the younger
Yeah.
people who are graduating. And then I did some research and I saw that there are 200,000 international students graduating every year. I'm assuming they are probably the best or the cream of the creams of their countries. But after they come here, US being such a interesting place, it doesn't help people navigate properly. So that's kind of like why I started Algorizin. It's more like just helping the younger versions of me. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's a long story short.
I mean, how beautiful that you turned, what the pain you went through and this problem that you identified and you personally experienced into something you can help people with and help reduce some of that struggle. And so I know when we first spoke, we connected about how that's kind of both of our stories where we started each what we're doing. And I just really appreciate that because you can tell it's coming from the heart and you found something where there was not resources, people needed
Yeah.
help. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like what that period was when you couldn't figure things out and how you were struggling. Just so people listening that are in that now know they're not
Mm.
alone and that they can get out of that too.
Mm. Um, so I mean, first I graduated in Houston, Texas. That's where my primary city was, and I heard from all of my friends or like people who I knew that New York is the place to be. It's like someone who, who just moved to US, so like just finished studying. So I was like, okay, I'll go to go to New York. That's the land of
Coming to
opportunity, or this,
America.
yeah, coming to America. So I went to New York. I knew someone who kind of like mm, promised me that, hey, like if you come here, I'll help you sponsor and like show you some voluntary experience for OPT period and stuff like that. But the moment I went to New York, that fell through, and I realized that obviously life is supposed to be hard. So I moved to New York, and then whatever the lead or contact was, that fell through. So that was my starting point of New
Oh my
York.
gosh.
And then I obviously I had to like pay the rents, New York rents. I was living in a shared bedroom with like two, three people in the same room, kind of situation. But anyway, so
Wow.
I started looking, asking literally anyone, my friends of friends, family of friends, like any human being I know to give me some kind of job because I have to sustain and pay the rent in New York. That was my step
Yeah.
one. And then I
Yeah.
started doing all these kind of like gyro stand restaurant jobs. And then but obviously that is not something I was planning to do long term. So I
Yeah.
started going to just the number one struggle to answer your question was the lack of role models or connections who could understand me or my personal struggle and could guide me. There, obviously, I can search in Google how to do this, but those are not catered towards immigrants.
Yeah.
Those are just in generic suggestions. Um, so I would say that is something which I like definitely struggled with. But eventually, I think after 5 to 6 months of beating around with all the networks I had, one of my friends said that, hey, like there's this person who provides software development training and he can mentor you. So I got in touch with that person, and then slowly I saw that there is a community where people mentors each other. But yeah, so it took me like 5 to 6 months to find something like that, and something which is
Oh
legit,
my
because there are
gosh.
also a lot of predatory practices even in that space. So
Yes.
yeah, so I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. I'm just like imagining you in that shared bedroom, two or three people, and just trying to get the gyro stand job. And like, I know so many people in our community are there, and I know we were there when my husband immigrated. I relate so much to what you're saying. Like, I remember calling up the schools in DC where we were living and just being like, do you need someone to tutor Spanish? Because that was a skill he had. And
Yeah,
it's like, how are we going to pay the rent, so I just want people to know that like you're not alone if that's going through that. And what I really want to highlight from your story you shared is you didn't give up. You kept persevering and just being resourceful and reaching out to any contact you had to try to find a way out of that. And that's what you got to do. You just got to not give up, right?
I think that's a very good point. I did want to give up a lot of times. So I remember that I was um, in Subway, and I was like talking to my mom, who I'm originally from Bangladesh. So I was just talking with my mom in phone, and I couldn't stop myself from crying. The whole subway station was like it was 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm talking with my mom, waiting for the train. New York trains are very
Yeah.
slow at night, and I was like, "What did I do, mom? That I like somehow I landed here, and this doesn't seem very planned. It doesn't seem like what I planned when I had the dream to come to America. I thought that, oh, everything is like Spider-Man, everything will be in Manhattan. I'm gonna be flying, but but obviously I wasn't flying in Manhattan. So yeah, it was. But like a lot of this, the one note I wanted to add here is that I think in these times the community or friends, however you name it, those are the people who are close. They are the foundational important thing for your success. I don't think this actually gets focused enough,
Yeah.
that the first layer of people who support you, um, we can obviously, I had my grit. I'm a very consistent and like just what should I, like never let go kind of person. uh,
Yeah.
but that being said, my friends and my family and the people who cared about me really made a lot of difference, because there are some days which I was like, okay, maybe I should just go back, like why
Yeah.
suffer through this? I can go back to Bangladesh, at least I have my parents. um, but I'm glad that I suffered through it. I mean, I shouldn't. It doesn't even seem like suffering at this stage, because I've learned so much. It made me, in general, I hope a better person, just more humble. I do not take things for granted. I know that when, especially, I mean, I hope I'm not going too much into
No,
tangents,
I
but
love it. Keep going.
last year when the this COVID hit, I think a lot of people actually, like as a global society, like realize this thing that the requirement of having a community. And like starting from last year, I saw that there are so many mental health issues came up.
Yeah.
And Yeah, coming to the thing is that I think for anyone's success, the foundational layer is very, very important for long term progress. And we do not we focus a lot in career, which is obviously we are a career bootcamp. We have to focus on this, but also just spending time with family, spending time with the main people. I think that was the major learning from that. But also
Mhm.
the same things as I think when we go through tough times, we forget that that is not permanent, and that's what
Yeah.
which permanently shift for me in terms of mindset. That okay, like I'm going through it, but if I, okay, so this is one analogy I give. So if let's say I like if someone, if God or someone like who knows everything, if they told me, like gave me a phone call, like so I'll okay, so I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. So there was one point I was doing gyro stand and like all these jobs. So in the whole day, I was working 10-hour days, and after 10 hours, I made $60 after 10 hour in
Wow.
cash. Okay,
Wow.
obviously, and no one will pay you because this is in cash. These are not recorded. Welcome to America. And then after 3 years. I was working in this tech job where I was doing much well. So I was making $60 per hour. So
Oh my gosh.
I was making the same amount of money in 3 years. Like it is unbelievable the amount of
Yeah.
growth and luck I had in my life. So the point I'm trying to make is that if someone who knew this thing, that hey Siam, within 3 years you will be making the same amount of money which you made in the whole day, I would not be sad. I'm like, sure, I'll do gyro stand jobs. I don't mind. Like so, like it's fine because I know the news already. The good news has already arrived, and that's something which I have, I think, permanently shifted for me. And this is some skill which I had learned through it. Is that whenever we're going through tough times, uh, believing genuinely that the future is definitely brighter because it cannot get worse than this. So
Yeah.
that's another point. So yeah.
I love that. And you must have actually known that at the time because you were willing to go through it and you didn't give up. Like there's some part of you that knew it's gonna pay off, or else you wouldn't have kept going. And so that's such an important piece of hope in getting through this.
I'm very
And
stubborn. I'm very stubborn. So yeah.
I'm just thinking about, when I've this is kind of personal, but when like I talk to my husband about, people could say, "Oh, you didn't marry a rich guy, you married an immigrant and he came from nothing." He's like, "There's one thing I have that no, person born into wealth will have is he's like, I know how to get through struggle." He's like, "No matter what happens, we can survive." He's like, "I've done it a million times." And that is such a valuable asset that immigrants have who have had to go through those struggles. And when you were first telling the story, I'm just thinking about like, man, this is why we need the immigration laws changed. One of the million reasons, because you have such incredible potential. Look what you're doing now, helping all these people, which we'll get into in a minute. What you're doing now, and we could have missed out on that if you hadn't had that strength to keep going. It shouldn't have been so hard that you had to go through all of that. It's the
I
system and the laws.
I totally agree, and that is why I think we definitely need you and people like you more, like way more people, because this is a foundational level change. It's a socio-economic plus political level change. It's not that only you and me, just two people can do. We need like army
Yeah,
in order to do
absolutely.
that shift. So, but I think it's. I mean, we are working towards it, so I think it will happen one day. But yes, I agree. I agree that I had the resilience and the grit and the luck and the multiple factors which works towards me. And I have seen a lot of people actually could not making it, like they did
Yeah,
not pass through it. And this is eventually a loss of the biggest loser here is US as an economy.
exactly.
So yeah, so I
That's what I
totally
was
agree.
trying to say. Like, there's
Yeah,
so much untapped potential that is wasted because of how the immigration laws. Because for people who don't understand the immigration or don't know about the immigration system, and particularly people on F1 visas, is what was going on. Was my understanding right that basically you weren't allowed to work? You weren't allowed to when you were on the F1 visa outside of your campus,
yeah.
right? And you had very limited options, even with when you had OPT, right?
Yeah. Agreed. So I wasn't allowed to work, and yeah. So on that note, like this is something which is staggering to me, and like I want to hear your thoughts here as well, actually. Uh, so uh, so I feel like US has done a very good job in bringing the driven and the smart ones and the change makers from each country. So US has done a very good job in the Hollywood and all this social power they have built over the century. That oh, like someone who is growing up in, for example, like I personally, when I was growing up in Bangladesh, my favorite superhero was still Spider-Man. It wasn't no one from a local Bangladeshi superhero. It was Spider-Man. Who is Spider-Man? Spider-Man is American. Where does he live? He lives in Manhattan. So I'm physically located in Bangladesh, but I'm actually technically almost American, even in that age. And this is
Yeah.
true for most of the immigration countries. I have friends from
Yes.
Nigeria, all over the world. They're like, yeah, US is the country of opportunities. This is where the dreams come true. Great, you're bringing all these aspirational top 1% of the country's population, each country's population, and then oh, then we don't know what to do. This is the immigration thing. You have to go for 10 years of green card waiting time for Indians,
It's
maybe like
crazy.
20 years of Indian waiting time. So I'm like, how is it smart for you? So yeah. Anyway, I think I'm complaining a lot. So
It doesn't make any sense. And I think at this point everyone knows it doesn't make sense and that the system's broken. I mean, there hasn't been immigration reform since 1985, right? For
yeah,
decades. And we have the Democrats in power and we still can't get it done. It's pitiful. But I think there's a
yeah.
lot of reasons why it is the case. I mean, one of them, to go back to this topic of immigrant finance, it's all about money. It's all about economic. And I
Mm,
think at the end of the day, people in power are afraid to give up jobs and opportunities. And there's a lot of fear of foreigners. There's a lot of racism. There's a lot of xenophobia.
yeah.
And I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but I mean, I want to get
Yeah,
to what you're doing now to actually change that. But yeah, I think we agree.
yeah, I totally agree. We'll change it from immigrant finance and Algorizin together. We'll fix this problem. So
Perfect.
that's the mission. So so right now we are just essentially. So I left my full-time jobs 3 years ago just to in pursuit of kind of like starting to help the community. I had some money saved and started to pursue the startup or the entrepreneurial path. So I tried a couple other ideas that didn't go through, but Algorizin started last year, last July. It's a very baby company, just 1 year, 3 months old. Um,
Wow. I didn't realize it
uh,
was that young. Congratulations.
it is very, very young. Thank you. And but I have learned a lot from my previous mistakes. So it's not exactly 1 year per se, and nothing is one
Right.
year. We I heard this
Right.
quote that like I forgot. I actually forgot the wording. Like everyone will say you that after 10 years of working, everyone will say you that you are an overnight success.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
like, so we only see
They
the
don't
tip of
see
the
all the
iceberg.
struggle.
Yeah, we
They
only see
don't
the
see
tip
the
of the
late
iceberg.
nights, then the
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and the tears. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we started last year, and with 7 students, our thesis was that okay, if we can train them. So the what we do is that we are a career bootcamp. We help students to land their first jobs. We started with software jobs, but now we are helping students get even engineering jobs. So in the first cohort, we actually started only with software jobs, and these people are not necessarily people from software degree background. Like they have electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or some non-software background. And
Mhm.
software is actually one of the easiest fields to get in. There is still a lot of demand. Like if I just go to Glassdoor and just search software engineering in any location, there are like 10,000 job searches. Um, so obviously there is a demand in the US market. And I just thought that maybe these students, they're smart. If I just train them some kind of basic programming and give them some hands-on programming skills, I think they will land a job. So that was the initial thesis. So we started our initial team with my friend in Microsoft and some other friends I had over the years, built the curriculum, started the course. And our students, so this the first cohort was 8 months long. So they graduated this year March, and
Mhm.
five out of the 7 students landed job within 2 months of graduation, and their average
Wow.
salary is 85,000 per annum.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
that is, yeah, these are very fresh graduates, very very young. My starting salary before after the odd job was 60,000. So even my starting salary was lower than the people I mentor now.
Wow.
Uh, so
That,
so yeah, so 5 people landed job within 2 months, and then the rest landed jobs within the 6 months of graduation. Obviously, it's a cohort, so some students will struggle more than others. The reality of things,
yeah.
but even 6 months within 6 months of graduation, everyone landing job with more than average salary of 85K, 100% graduation rate. That is insane.
Can
So
we just
we
celebrate for a second? I'm sorry. That is amazing. I mean, to think about, what you were struggling through and then now what you were able to provide with 100% success rate for these people is just amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Yes, it. I was personally a little bit doubtful as well, to be honest, when I started it because it was COVID. We started mid-COVID. Starting a company mid-COVID is, I don't know, job landing company in mid-COVID might not be the best idea, but
Or the best idea.
yeah, the best idea or the best idea. But luckily the market returned, and also our students were like really like we started with a very good batch of students, and hopefully we also added a lot of value in them, in their lives. So after the thesis was proven that we can actually help people land jobs, so this year we started taking more students. So right now, after that, we took 28 more students this year, and actually within that 28, in last 2 weeks also, I'm just talking in such a great time in Algorizin. So in last 2 weeks, six of the students already landed job from the newer
Wow.
cohorts from the 28s. So
That's awesome.
we're like having party in Algorithm now.
It's working.
Yeah.
That's so
So
incredible.
yeah, so that's kind of like a where we are at.
Okay. And so to make sure we all understand how you're helping these people, is it primarily teaching them to code and then navigate the
Mm,
job search process?
sure. So primarily in, I would say, three things. So number one is that these students, they do not have any industry experience or hands-on industry experience. So they graduate from these US schools, or maybe they have graduated from back home, but US industry operates in a very different way. There are different processes all these companies follow. So we focus more, number one, on giving them hands-on experience, that hey, you come to a project, there are other team members, there is a agile coach, there is a scrum master, there is a product manager. You see how to work in a team in a US work environment. So you can say it's
Mm.
like a simulation. We give them a simulation of a real work, and that also we also get them as interns. So these students are in OPT. They can actually also show that as their internship experience because this is relevant to their field, and they put it in
Hmm.
their resume. That definitely like 3 or 4 x's their interview landing
Yeah.
chances. So that's number one. Number two is that we help them with the entire interview preparation phase. So once they are strong in the hands-on experience, they have some projects, they have something to show for in their portfolio. We help them brush up their resume, improving their LinkedIn profile, improving their conversational skills, just like telling them how to navigate the US job market because they actually really don't know how to talk to recruiters, how to be confident in the interview, all these things. So we provide that entire, you can say, job placement or career landing, career improvement support. So that's phase two. And phase three is that we actually have connections with small businesses who are like essentially just to conversate with them to help them with help directly with the job placement. So many of the small
Hmm.
businesses in US, their immigration like departments not are not very well built, and they are also scared. So not only we're solving the problem from the student side, but from also from the employer side. And actually many
Hmm.
of the employers said that, hey, if Algorizin can take care of all these things, we are totally okay with hiring this person. And so that's the
Yeah.
phase three, that we connect directly with the employers. And with the recent cohort, actually the newer students are getting more benefit than the last cohort because obviously we are improving. Is
Yeah.
that some of them just literally landed in interview, like had a full shortcut. They didn't even had to go through the whole application process. They just directly went to the interview, which is
Wow.
very hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
so these are the primary three things we do.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, the second piece, that alone is so valuable. I personally haven't found any resources to guide immigrants through the job application process. The only thing I've heard of, because we've struggled through that a lot with Mal, the only thing
Yeah.
I've even come close to hearing was some resource provided by a church, but you also had to
Mm,
like get kind of a lot of church messaging, which
mm,
isn't for everybody.
yeah.
So that is so valuable. I mean, it's very difficult. Even just the concept of networking
Mm,
is very different for a lot of people who didn't grow up in the US. I know it can feel like for a lot of people it feels corrupt or something. Have you come across
mm.
that?
Yes, I think it's a mindset shift which needs to happen.
Yeah.
But yes, I have seen that, and a lot of people stay away from it. But I have, the moment they start joining Algorithm, I rephrase their mind, saying that, hey, in my view, networking, I have an equation literally written in my background. I cannot really show it in the thing, but the equation is that networking equals to giving. The goal of you networking is to help the other person. This is literally the only reason you should network for. Um, the moment people actually start doing this kind of networking, they have seen like massive results. Maybe not instantly because it doesn't come back instantly, but it always
Yeah.
comes back. So instead of going to someone and saying that, hey, I need a job, I'm really struggling, if they say that, hey, like, what are the struggle you are facing in your company, and hearing their
Yeah.
struggle and say that, oh, hey, like, maybe I can help you out with this or someone else can help you out, and that is a better way just to reframe this small thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I agree that there are a lot of mindset shift which needs to happen. It will happen even with money. Like a lot of people do not like money, like it's
Yeah.
so yeah. So there are these things. One thing I wanted to mention in the things we do is that along with all these job search and all these things, we also one of the things which students always said that they really appreciate is that whenever they feel like a little bit lost or like they don't know what to do, they can always reach out to us, and they have this in the back of their mind. They know that they have a community, and I think that is the biggest one. I
Yeah.
can go with each of these functional components, like okay, job landing, interview skills, but when I ask the students, they said that no, Siam, I know that you are there, and you have been in the US for 12 years now. So if I ask you anything, you can actually help me or connect me with someone. So that knowledge itself gives them a big piece, a mental piece. And also, like, we also provide them immigration support. Like, we did do opt, we did opt extension for some other students. So we also help them with this mental stress, because they're like, oh, if I don't get a job,
Yeah.
I'll have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Last but not the least, for all these things, we realized that these students cannot actually pay upfront. So we do income share agreements. So the students also do not have any financial burden upfront. They can just join our program, and then after they succeed, they only share 10% of their monthly salary, which is a like negligible after the amount of effort we put through for like 6 months. So I think
Yeah.
it is a very, very, when I came across this model, I found it really, really interesting that, oh, like, this is amazing that these people actually cannot spend money. How about we spend all our time and give our wisdom? And if they succeed, it doesn't feel that bad anymore. It's not, it almost feels like a, psychologically, it almost feels like a social impact, or like almost like a
Mm.
non-profit feeling of my work. Although it
Hmm.
is a company, it feels like, oh, I'm actually not, they don't have money, and after they succeed, it's good. So it's a win-win kind
Yeah.
of deal. So yeah.
That's really interesting. And it seems to match your approach to networking you're recommending too, where it's just like give, 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 help the person, and then the abundance will kind of flow. And it's actually really similar to what I teach with business in my business coaching. I teach mission-based social entrepreneurship type of business. And
Yeah.
it's a very similar thing. It's all about helping others, and it's not about you. It's like we
Yeah.
have to work through all of our own stuff to be able to do that, and all the mindset stuff and the ego battles and the insecurities and the doubts. And I'm guessing it's similar with applying for jobs and networking, so that you
Yeah.
can do what you're meant to do, which is help others. And
Yeah.
then when you do that, the money flows.
Yeah. Totally. Have the faith, and yes, always. This is not only interview, or I think this is a foundational learning that if you help, people will need you. It's almost, if you, after some times, I think that it is almost basic, that to understand. But I think, the another way I rephrase it to my students is saying that if you are trying to be selfish, be long-term selfish. Like, short-term selfish, meaning that you're just taking the help and exiting, but everyone understands that you are just taking something. No
Yeah.
one likes to be taken advantage of. But if you actually have the mindset of this abundance and just long-term selfish, then you can benefit from someone literally for your lifetime. Isn't that better than just taking help for once? So, but it takes some time. I think people, especially immigrants, because I was also in that phase, that like going through scarcity makes people just value short-term things, like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
like so struggling. And we have to kind of like send these reminders, like, hey, it's possible, and it will actually maybe help you in the long run. So yeah, just a few notes around that.
Question
Yeah.
for you on this. For people who are in that real scarcity, they're sharing a room with three people, or they're just
Hmm.
trying to make $60 a day to survive.
Hmm.
Realistically, how do you have that mindset?
That is a good question. I think, the way I would think, and I would love to hear actually, like, it would be great to hear a lot of people's viewpoints here, um, is that, when I ask for help, when I ask someone that, hey, what do you need help with? Essentially, what I'm asking is that, hey, um, what do you need help with? Uh, uh, and making them not intentionally but dependent on me. Like, hey, like, I'm gonna get your work done, and maybe the first two times I'll do it voluntarily. No worries. You need help, you need this thing, I'll get it done. And none of the relationships in the world are sustainable if it is just one-time help. So if I'm really doing a good job, let's say I know how to make websites, I know to do this or do that, whatever is my skill. If I do a good job at it, then they will come back to me. They will say that, hey, Siam, I really liked this from you, and I'm actually willing to pay. I have been paying someone, they're not doing a good job. You seem to be the good person. And that's how I'm eventually landing the job, but in a little bit step two kind of way. So it's not like I'm
Mm-hmm.
helping them for like 1 year without any return. I'm helping them once or twice, and the
Yeah.
giving. So another, so maybe a better way to think about it is that I am personally a product. This is something which I also told to my friends, to think that the same way we sell products, try to think of yourself as a product, and this is your trial user phase. This is a trial user. Hey, two
Hmm.
weeks trial with Siam. Sign up with sign up with Siam for 2 weeks trial. Do the 2 weeks trial, get it for free. But then there is a monthly recurring subscription fee. So Siam has a monthly recurring subscription fee. In normal world, it's called salary. So that's another way to look at it. So this is a trial phase.
Yeah.
Maybe that's easier to think that way.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. And I imagine that's also helpful for in terms of like recognizing your self-worth and making sure you're not taking advantage of when you're past the trial phase. Because you have a very clear
Mm,
boundary that you're like, I'm willing to help, I'm willing to
mm,
show my worth and do it without asking anything in return. But at a certain point, I'm gonna stand up for
mm,
myself. So maybe we could talk about that a little in terms of salary negotiation or not settling in a job.
mm. Very, 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 very good point, actually. Yeah, I think actually, yeah, a lot of people actually struggle there on that side. So I think the trial user way is probably better. That so my approach towards life is that I don't believe in discounts. Like, for example, this is something everyone knows
Yeah.
who works with me. I don't believe in discount, because if someone says that, hey, can I give you a discounted salary or can I give you a discounted rate, then I will give you a discounted work, but it doesn't follow with my work ethics. I cannot do discounted work. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
I will let people use a free trial for 2 weeks, no worries. But after that, the price will be the same price as you buy Apple or iPhone. It will be a more expensive price because I cannot cut down. I know that I'll go above and beyond. And that is something, I guess that's a good point, that maybe a lot of the people who are struggling, they're also struggling with finding their self-worth because they have not been validated or they have not gone to the industry yet. Anything which they are offered, they will probably accept. Like, I have, so this is a common problem with most of our students. Even if they're offered, like, hey, they don't have a job, right? So when they're like, okay, we'll offer you 50,000, I say that never go below like 80,000 for your skill set, and I'll teach you how to talk. And there are so many people who actually raised like 15K easily, and one of the students, she was offered 70K, and she landed the job offer 118K. That was her raise from
Wow.
the ask.
That's a
That was
huge difference.
that is like, she would take many years to go to that jump. But I said that, hey,
Yeah.
let's talk through it, and let's be patient. I know that you do not have any salary, but if you just accept it, then you are undervaluing yourself. Because
Yeah.
just go to Glassdoor and look at what are the skills, what are the average rate. Like, just go to the fair rate. Many people actually will try to take advantage of you because you are an immigrant and they know that you're desperate.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, like, I think the you brought a good point, that I think for immigrants it's probably important to understand their worth. The best way to do it is just to go to websites like Glassdoor or Payscale and just enter their skills, and just see in that region what is the fair market average salary. uh, it will be within that range, and under any circumstances never go too much below that range. Say that, hey, I'll work for free for you for 2 weeks, but when you pay, it has to be a good pay. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah.
That is incredibly generous of you to share the advice you just gave. I don't know if people listening realize how valuable that advice is. Like that is literally how you figure out what you should be paid and demand it and stand up for yourself. And this I've noticed too in our communities is a huge issue with self-worth and being paid fairly for your time and your energy. And I think a lot of it has to do with the immigration system and how it dehumanizes people and puts you in
Yeah.
positions where you have to be desperate or your
Yeah.
confidence goes down. I mean, it's nothing personal. It's not about someone being
Mm,
weak. It's this the system
mm,
puts you in that
totally.
position, right? And I remember
Mm,
my husband when he started off working for free when he first came to the
mm,
US as an intern, and he was just so desperate to get anything that when he
mm,
finally got these short-term recurring contracts that he was on for years. It was terrible. He was just like so grateful, but he was being completely taken advantage of, 100%. And so it's really important to take this advice and look up what the market values are and like stand up for yourself, even if it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. I mean, the tactics here, how the people who wants to take advantage, the tactics here is very simple. That they will always pressurize over time. That hey, if you don't decide right now in the call, this will be going to someone else. That's literally the message. And I said to the students that hey, your rule number one is that you never decide instantly, because whenever you're deciding momentarily, you're more likely to making mistakes. That's why there are all these discounts in the world, which is like, oh, if you don't sign up within like 2 hours, this is gone forever and ever. That's not so I said that, hey, take some time, take a day, and say if they really like you, they will wait for a day. No one will not wait
Absolutely.
for. You can say that, hey, can I know that you want to hire, but can I just take a day just to think about it, and I'll make sure that I'll let you know by tomorrow latest. That will give you more clarity. So very small things,
Yeah.
and yeah, just wanted to add these small things. There are so many things about negotiation which um, yeah, we mistake when we're early. So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this talk to go in this direction, but I think this is where it did need to go. I mean, because it's really important. So
Yeah.
before we get to the job offer and the negotiation, and then we
Mm,
can wrap up soon. I know we're almost at time.
mm,
What would you recommend to people who have no tech experience, but they want to work their way up to being able to
mm.
apply to Algorizin or be on a path to tech job? Is there anything they can do to get started?
100%. So if anyone is interested in tech jobs, the number one thing I would do is to just like join like number one, I would say, like, I think the number one platform has to be LinkedIn. Just starting to network people in the region, and network again, coming back to the old thing, network means giving. So try to give people in the network. Obviously you don't have anything to give now, but say that, hey, I'm just trying to get to know people and see that if my skills are valuable, and then start the first conversation. I think that's the number one skill everyone needs to be as an immigrant. Just be strong in LinkedIn, having a good
Mhm.
LinkedIn profile, whatever their achievement is. That's number one. And then second is just going to YouTube and do some basic search on how software as an industry will definitely be the, I mean, it's already very dominant, but in the next decade, all the other industries will be needing software industry, legal tech,
Yeah.
HR tech, everything will have a tech component. And
Yeah.
this is something which my dad said when I was young, but I would say something different to my kids when I have them. So my dad said that, hey, Siam, if you want to be successful in life, you have to be good in English. That's something my dad literally said me all the time in Bangladesh. And I would say my kids that, hey, if you want to be good in life, you have to know at least one programming language, because this is a
Mm.
mandate. It doesn't matter. You are a nurse. Which programming language do you know? Additionally, it's like learning Spanish. Spanish is a language. It's a human to human language, but programming language is a human to machine language. And
Mhm.
and I think programming languages are very easy these days. There are hundreds of communities online. There are millions of YouTube people. If you just start searching, there will be a lot of things. So I would say that, summarizing, number one is that just trying to network with people in LinkedIn, going to meetups, very, very useful. Just meetup.com, and then just search
Mhm.
for dev shops, career programming, coding, networking. Just look at them and just go and start talking. It will help you with like just like anxiety, and just talking to people, making more like being more confident. And yeah, like just overall learning in YouTube. And if someone wants to check out Algorizin, feel free to just go to algorizin.com and just like see what we do there. But I think there are actually an abundant of resources right now for programming and software jobs. I think the gap is not in abundance of information. If anything, the gap is between curation of information, which we are trying to do. In Udemy or YouTube, there are millions of videos. You can spend your entire life trying to learn programming,
Yeah,
but I think without an expertise, it's difficult to know how to plug which one. Like, oh, should I learn Python
exactly.
first or React first? Which one is good for Microsoft now? Like these things can be helpful if someone is working in the industry. They actually know what is happening in the industry, so it would be good. But again, that can happen through networking, just meeting people in LinkedIn, just being in the space is also helpful. But if anyone wants to reach out to me in LinkedIn, if anyone wants to check out Algorizin, I'll be more than happy to help in general. We have so many free
Wonderful.
resources online which can also help students start. So yeah.
Wonderful. The guidance you're providing of a step-by-step way to learn what you need to know and not waste time on the things you don't is
uh,
invaluable. And I think that's something I've learned over the years is time is the one thing you can't get back. That
yeah. Yeah.
um time is worth more than money, right? And you can't get your time back. And it's actually the same thing with finances. You can spend your whole life researching what to do with your
Yeah.
finances. We spent 7 years wasting that we could
Yeah.
have been just making money investing if we had been handed a step-by-step plan in the beginning. So I imagine it's the same with tech,
Very much.
the tech field.
Very much,
Yeah.
very much. Very well put. And this is also something which I say to the students. I mean, now I don't have to say anymore, but like something that, yes, like anyone can get into tech, for sure. Maybe for them it will take 1 year. If they talk with me, it might take them 6 months. And essentially, what they're doing is that they're just kind of like sharing the benefit of that 6 months, number one. And then if they talk to me, I will raise their salary at least 10 to 15K anyway. So like there is no loss.
Yes.
So
It's a
like
no-brainer.
it's a
So
no-brainer. I'm
everyone
gonna
go everyone go apply Algorizin. Um I
yeah.
will link below the link so you guys can go check it out. Is there anywhere else is there anything else you want to add, and then where can people, go find you and support what you're
Sure.
doing?
Yeah, so like feel free to look us up. Like I mean, the website algorizin.com. Feel free to search us in YouTube, in LinkedIn. Feel free to search me in YouTube, Siam Hossain. You can just search me. And yeah, I mean, any platform you want to reach out to. LinkedIn is probably one of the best because LinkedIn I can actually connect, and if I know someone, I can make some introductions. So yeah,
Amazing. Thank you for all of this knowledge you've shared. You have dropped some major bombs. Really about in terms of like value. I mean, this is stuff people pay career coaches a lot of money to learn. So thank you for being so generous to our community.
no problem. Thank you for inviting me, and hopefully we'll do more work in future. Like keep fighting this battle for immigrants.
Definitely. And if anyone else is listening wants to find more ways to help immigrants, in their careers, with their finances, come connect with us because we don't want it to be just the two of us here.
Yeah,
And I know
agreed.
there's more out there. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Thank you, Siam. Take care.
All right, take care, Adina. Take